The massive chamber stretched beyond what human eyes could easily measure. Crystal formations jutted from walls that seemed to pulse with their own inner light, casting dancing shadows across the assembled beings. Maya-chan pressed her back against the cold metal restraints that held her to the ceremonial platform, trying to control her breathing as hundreds of alien eyes focused on her small form. She was 17 years old, a maintenance worker aboard the human colony ship New Dawn, and she had never imagined she would die like this. The Galactic Tribunal had chosen her randomly from among the human crew, declaring that one life would satisfy their ancient laws. The irony wasn't lost on her that humanity's first contact with galactic civilization would end with her death. The tribunal consisted of 12 species, each more alien than the last. The Zelthani resembled giant praying mantises, their compound eyes reflecting the chamber's light in thousands of tiny rainbows. The Krillak looked like walking trees, their bark-like skin creaking with each movement. The most disturbing were the Vorthak, whose shape-shifting forms constantly flowed between different configurations of tentacles and eyes. At the center of the arrangement sat the High Arbiter, a being so old that its species' name had been forgotten. It appeared as a floating mass of crystalline structures, each facet containing swirling galaxies of light. When it spoke, reality itself seemed to vibrate with its words. The humans have violated Galactic Law 847 Delta, the High Arbiter announced, its voice echoing from every surface in the chamber. They have entered restricted space without proper authorization. They have contaminated a protected system with their primitive technology. The penalty is death. Maya had heard this speech 3 times already as the tribunal debated her fate. The humans hadn't known about any galactic laws. They were just trying to find a new home after Earth became uninhabitable. Their colony ship had been limping through space for 2 generations when the tribunal's enforcement fleet surrounded them. However, the High Arbiter continued, the Council recognizes that ignorance, while not excusable, may warrant a modified punishment. Instead of destroying the entire human fleet, we shall take 1 life as payment. This human female has been selected. Maya's throat felt dry. She wanted to speak, to protest, to explain that her people were refugees, not invaders. But the neural inhibitor clamped around her skull prevented any sound from escaping. She could only listen and wait. A new voice cut through the chamber, deep and resonant like the rumble of distant thunder. And what will you do with this sacrifice? Every being in the chamber turned toward the source of the voice. Maya felt her blood turn cold as she saw what had spoken. The creature that entered the chamber defied easy description. It stood nearly 4 meters tall, with a body that seemed part dragon, part shadow. Its scales shifted between colors that had no names, and wings that looked like they could blot out suns folded against its back. Yellow eyes the size of dinner plates fixed on Maya with an intelligence that felt older than stars. "Ah, Keeper Vexnash," the High Arbiter said, its tone carrying what might have been respect or fear. "We had not expected your presence at this proceeding." The dragon being, Vexnash, moved with fluid grace that made no sound despite its massive size. "I am here because I have need of this human." A ripple of confusion passed through the assembled tribunal. The Zelthani representative clicked its mandibles nervously. "Keeper, surely you do not wish to interfere with judicial proceedings?" Vexnash's laugh was like distant volcanic eruptions. "I do not interfere. I invoke my right as keeper of the ancient compact. This human's life force will serve a greater purpose in my collection." Maya didn't understand what was happening, but she could see the effect Vexnash's words had on the tribunal. Several species began communicating in rapid, high-pitched frequencies. The tree-like Krillak swayed as if blown by strong winds. Even the shape-shifting Vorthak seemed to recoil. The High Arbiter's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "Keeper, the ancient compact has not been invoked in over 3,000 cycles. Are you certain you wish to claim this right?" "I am certain." Vexnash approached the platform where Maya was restrained. Up close, she could see that its scales weren't just changing colors. They were reflecting entire star systems. Each scale contained what looked like a tiny universe. This human possesses something I require. And what might that be? Asked a new voice. Maya turned to see another member of the tribunal she hadn't noticed before. This being looked almost human, except for the silver skin and eyes that held too much knowledge. Vex Nash studied Maya with those enormous yellow eyes. She felt as if those eyes were looking not just at her, but through her, seeing things about herself she didn't even know existed. Potential, Vex Nash said finally. This one has the spark of something that has been lost to the galaxy for millennia. I will take her to my domain, where she will serve as payment for the human transgression. The High Arbiter was silent for long moments. When it finally spoke, its voice carried reluctance. The ancient compact supersedes modern law. If you truly claim this right, Keeper Vex Nash, then the human is yours. But know that you take responsibility for her actions and the actions of her species. Accepted. Vex Nash reached toward Maya with one massive clawed hand. The restraints holding her dissolved at his touch, but she found she still couldn't move. Some invisible force held her in place. Come, human. Your new existence begins now. Maya felt herself lifted from the platform by invisible hands. The neural inhibitor fell away, and suddenly she could speak again. Wait, she called out. What about my people? What happens to the colony's ship? The High Arbiter's form brightened again. Your people will be allowed to continue their journey, but they will be marked. They may not enter any system claimed by tribunal species. They may not establish colonies on any world designated as protected. They must find their own way in the darkness between stars. That's not fair, Maya shouted. We didn't know about your laws. We're just looking for a home. Fairness is a luxury the galaxy cannot afford, the High Arbiter replied. Your species' ignorance endangered an entire stellar nursery. Thousands of developing civilizations could have been destroyed by your primitive fusion drives. One life is a small price to pay for such recklessness. Maya felt anger building in her chest, but before she could respond, Vex Nash's voice cut through her thoughts. Enough. The judgment is rendered. We depart. The world around Maya began to shift and blur. The great chamber faded away, replaced by swirling colors and impossible geometries. She felt like she was falling through liquid starlight while being stretched across infinite distances. When the sensation stopped, Maya found herself standing in a place that defied description. The ground beneath her feet appeared to be made of polished black stone, but when she looked down, she could see galaxies spinning slowly beneath the surface. The sky above held 3 moons, each a different color, casting strange shadows that moved independently of any light source. Vex Nash stood before her, no longer the terrifying presence from the tribunal chamber. Here, in what she assumed was his domain, he seemed almost comfortable. Welcome to the Threshold Realm, human. You will find it quite different from your previous existence. Why did you save me? Maya asked. Her voice sounded strange in this place, carrying echoes she couldn't explain. I did not save you. I claimed you. There is a difference. Vex Nash began walking, and Maya found herself compelled to follow. You will serve a purpose here, one that may benefit both your species and the galaxy at large. They walked through a landscape that constantly changed around them. Maya saw forests made of crystal trees that sang in harmonious tones. They passed lakes of liquid silver that reflected not their current surroundings, but places and times that might have been or could yet be. Strange creatures moved in the distance, beings that looked like they had stepped out of dreams or nightmares. What is this place? Maya asked. It exists between dimensions, touching all realities but belonging to none. I am its guardian, its curator, its prisoner. Vex Nash's tone carried centuries of weariness. For longer than your species has existed, I have collected things of value. Artifacts, knowledge, life forms that possess unique qualities. And what unique quality do I possess? Maya tried to keep the sarcasm out of her voice, but wasn't entirely successful. Vex Nash stopped walking and turned to look at her, Those yellow eyes seemed to peer into her soul. You are human. Do you have any idea how rare that makes you? There are thousands of humans on the colony's ship. There are thousands of human bodies, Vex Nash corrected, but very few true humans. Your species stands at a crossroads, child. They can become something magnificent or something terrible. The choice will be made in the next few decades of their development. Maya thought about her people, trapped on their slowly failing colony ship, forced to wander the darkness between stars because of laws they had never heard of. And what does that have to do with me? Everything. Vex Nash resumed walking, leading her toward what appeared to be a massive tower that stretched beyond sight into the strange sky. Humans possess something that every other species in the galaxy has lost. Do you know what that is? Maya thought about it. She had heard stories about the various alien species they had encountered during their first contact with the Galactic Tribunal. Most seemed focused on order, on following ancient laws, and maintaining the status quo. Hope. Close, but not quite. Vex Nash smiled, revealing teeth that looked like they could bite through starships. Defiance. The word hung in the air between them like a challenge. Maya felt something stir in her chest, a warmth she couldn't quite identify. Every species in the galaxy has accepted their place in the cosmic order, Vex Nash continued. They follow the laws, they maintain the balance, they do what they have always done. But humans? Humans look at impossible odds and ask, how can we beat this? They see an unbreakable law and wonder what happens if we break it anyway. That's what got us into this situation in the first place, Maya pointed out. Yes, and it's also what may save not just your species, but every species in the galaxy. They had reached the base of the tower. Maya could see that it wasn't made of any normal material. It appeared to be constructed from crystallized time itself, with moments and memories frozen in its structure like insects in amber. The Galactic Tribunal believes they maintain order. In truth, they maintain stagnation. The galaxy is dying, child, not from war or catastrophe, but from lack of growth, lack of change, lack of hope. So what are you going to do with me? I'm going to teach you, Vex Nash said as a doorway opened in the tower's base. I'm going to show you secrets that have been hidden for millions of years. I'm going to prepare you to go back to your people with knowledge that could change everything. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the strange atmosphere of this place. Why would you do that? Aren't you part of their system too? Vex Nash's laugh was softer this time, almost sad. I'm older than the Tribunal, child. I remember when the galaxy was young and filled with wonders beyond imagination. I have watched as fear and bureaucracy slowly strangled the life out of entire civilizations. The Keepers were meant to preserve knowledge for future generations. Instead, we have become jailers of possibility. They entered the tower, and Maya gasped. The interior was vast beyond comprehension, filled with floating platforms, impossible staircases, and chambers that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Books flew through the air on their own, their pages glowing with inner light. Artifacts from countless civilizations hovered in protective fields, each one telling the story of dreams that had been abandoned. This is the archive of abandoned possibilities, Vex Nash explained. Every great idea that was suppressed, every revolutionary technology that was banned, every dream that was deemed too dangerous by the Tribunal. All of it is here, waiting. Waiting for what? For someone with the courage to use it. Vex Nash gestured to the incredible collection around them. Your species may have violated Galactic Law 847 Delta, but that law itself violates something far more fundamental. The right of intelligent beings to grow, to explore, to become more than they were. Maya walked among the floating artifacts, her mind reeling. She saw designs for spacecraft that could travel between galaxies in days rather than millennia. She glimpsed mathematical equations that could revolutionize physics. There were biological samples from species that had transcended their physical forms, technological blueprints for machines that could reshape reality itself. How long have you been collecting all this? Time moves strangely here, Vex Nash replied. In your linear perspective, perhaps 50 million years. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I have seen species discover wonders beyond imagination, only to have the tribunal declare such knowledge too dangerous for general use. And you just let them do it? I was bound by the same oaths that bind all keepers. Preserve, protect, but do not interfere. Vex Nash's eyes grew distant. But the ancient compact that allowed me to claim you also allows me certain freedoms. By taking responsibility for your actions, I can act through you. Maya felt the weight of implication settling on her shoulders. You want me to steal all this knowledge and take it back to humanity. I want you to learn it, understand it, and then choose what to do with it. Vex Nash led her to a central platform where a chair waited. It looked like it had been grown rather than built, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. The choice must be yours, child. That is what makes humans unique. You still believe you have choices. Maya approached the chair cautiously. What happens if I sit in that? You will experience the accumulated knowledge of 500 civilizations. You will see the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of gods, the secrets that govern the fundamental forces of reality. Vex Nash's voice carried both warning and promise. You will also understand the terrible responsibility that comes with such knowledge. And if I refuse, then you will live here comfortably until your natural lifespan ends. Your people will continue their wandering between stars until their ship fails and they die in the darkness. The galaxy will continue its slow descent into stagnation until entropy finally claims everything that once was great. Maya stared at the chair. It looked innocent enough, but she could feel power radiating from it like heat from a forge. No pressure at all. Choice without consequence is meaningless, Vex Nash observed. Your species faces extinction either way. The question is whether that extinction will be meaningful or merely inevitable. Maya thought about her friends aboard the New Dawn. She pictured little Sarah Martinez in the hydroponics bay, always asking questions about how things grew. She remembered old Captain Williams, who still believed they would find a new home despite everything that had gone wrong. She thought about her parents, who had sacrificed so much to give her a chance at a better life. If I do this, if I learn everything in this archive, what guarantee do I have that I'll be able to help them? None whatsoever. Vex Nash's honesty was brutal. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Power without understanding is catastrophic. Many who have sat in that chair have emerged mad or broken. But some have emerged transformed. How many? In 50 million years? 3. Maya felt her stomach drop. And what happened to them? They changed the galaxy. Vex Nash moved closer, his massive presence somehow comforting rather than threatening. One created the technology that allowed faster-than-light travel. One developed the mathematical principles that govern artificial intelligence. One discovered how to manipulate the fundamental forces that hold reality together. And then the tribunal suppressed their discoveries. Eventually, but not before those discoveries spread far enough to take root. Progress in the galaxy happened slowly, secretly, against the will of those who fear change. Vex Nash gestured to the chair. This could be humanity's contribution to that progress. Maya walked around the chair, studying it from every angle. The patterns on its surface seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. What makes you think I'm the right person for this? I'm just a maintenance worker. I fix broken air recyclers and patch hull leaks. And what does that require? Maya thought about it. Problem solving, creativity, the ability to make something work even when all the official manuals say it can't be done. Precisely. Vex Nash smiled again. Every other species in the galaxy would look at a broken air recycler and replace it according to specifications. Humans look at a broken air recycler and figure out how to make it work better than it did originally. That's not always a good thing. Sometimes our jury-rigged solutions cause bigger problems down the line, and sometimes they lead to revolutionary breakthroughs. The willingness to risk failure is the price of achieving anything truly great. Vex Nash moved to stand beside the chair. The galaxy has forgotten how to take risks. Your species has not. Maya placed her hand on the chair's armrest. The material felt warm and alive under her touch. If I do this, if I somehow survive learning everything in your archive, what then? How do I get back to my people? I will return you to them when you are ready. Time moves differently here. Remember, what feels like years of learning to you will be mere hours in normal space. Vex Nash's expression grew serious. But understand this, child. Once you sit in that chair, once you open your mind to the knowledge it contains, you will never be the same person you are now. The Maya Chun who sits down will not be the Maya Chun who stands up. Will I still be human? More human than ever before. But also something more. Vex Nash stepped back, giving her space to make her choice. The knowledge will show you what your species could become, both the heights and the depths. You will understand why the tribunal fears you and why I have hope for you. Maya took a deep breath and settled into the chair. The moment her back touched the surface, the patterns began to glow with increasing intensity. Any last advice? Remember who you were before you learned who you could be, Vex Nash said. And remember that every species that has ever achieved greatness did so by refusing to accept the limitations others placed upon them. The chair activated, and Maya's consciousness exploded outward into a universe of knowledge. She saw the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. She experienced the rise and fall of civilizations that spanned millions of worlds. She learned the secrets of forces that could reshape reality with a thought. And through it all, one truth burned bright in her mind. The Galactic Tribunal was wrong. The galaxy didn't need more order. It needed chaos, creativity, and the wild unpredictability that only a young species could provide. As the knowledge poured into her mind, Maya Chun began to understand exactly what she was going to do about it. Maya's awareness returned slowly, like surfacing from the deepest ocean. The chair that had contained her consciousness for subjective centuries still hummed with residual energy, its patterns now dim and quiet. She opened eyes that had seen the birth of galaxies and looked upon the archive of abandoned possibilities with new understanding. She was no longer the frightened 17-year-old who had been dragged before the Galactic Tribunal. The knowledge of 500 civilizations flowed through her mind like a second set of memories. She understood now why the chair had driven others insane. The sheer weight of information should have crushed her human consciousness like an insect under a starship. But it hadn't. Instead, something extraordinary had happened during her transformation. The knowledge had organized itself, creating new pathways in her mind that shouldn't have been possible. Where others had been overwhelmed by chaos, Maya had found patterns. Where they had seen contradiction, she had discovered synthesis. "How do you feel?" Vex Nash asked. He had waited beside the chair through her entire transformation, his ancient eyes watching for signs of madness or breakdown. Maya stood, marveling at how different her body felt. Every movement was precise, calculated, efficient. She could feel the quantum fluctuations in the air around her, sense the gravitational fields of distant stars. Her enhanced perception showed her the underlying mathematical structures that held reality together. "Like I'm seeing everything clearly for the first time," she replied. Her voice carried new harmonics that hadn't been there before. "And like I understand why the tribunal is terrified of what humanity might become." Vex Nash's expression was unreadable. "Show me." Maya walked to one of the floating artifacts, a crystalline structure that contained the compressed memories of a species called the Wanderers. They had been nomads who traveled between dimensions, but the tribunal had declared their technology too dangerous after one of their experiments had accidentally erased a small moon from existence. With her new understanding, Maya could see that the Wanderers' mistake hadn't been in their technology, but in their approach. They tried to force their way through dimensional barriers instead of finding the natural weak points. The knowledge in her mind showed her 17 different ways to accomplish the same goal without risking catastrophic failure. She touched the crystal, and it responded to her thought patterns, displaying a three-dimensional schematic of a dimensional drive that could move objects between realities as easily as walking through a door. But Maya's enhanced mind immediately saw how to improve it, how to make it safer, more efficient, more elegant. The Wanderer's design was flawed, she said, manipulating the holographic display with gestures that came naturally to her despite having never used such technology before. They were trying to tear holes in space-time instead of folding it, like trying to break down a door instead of finding the key. She showed Vex-Nash her modifications, and the ancient being's eyes widened slightly. You have improved upon their work in minutes. It took the Wanderers 3,000 years to develop that technology, because they didn't have the mathematical framework of the astral geometrists or the force manipulation techniques of the crystal singers, Maya explained. Every species developed their knowledge in isolation. But I can see how it all fits together. Maya moved to another artifact, then another. With each one, she demonstrated not just understanding, but improvement. The knowledge of 500 civilizations had created something new in her mind, a synthesis that none of those species had achieved alone. This is why you chose a human, Maya realized. It's not just our defiance. It's our ability to synthesize, to take disparate elements and combine them into something greater. Partially correct, Vex-Nash agreed. But there's more. Show me what you understand about the Tribunal's true purpose. Maya closed her eyes and let the archived knowledge flow through her consciousness. She saw the history of the galaxy, the great wars that had nearly destroyed all intelligent life, the chaos that had reigned before the Tribunal established order. But she also saw what had come after, millennia of stagnation, of potential crushed under the weight of bureaucracy. They're not evil, she said finally. They're afraid. The galaxy almost destroyed itself once through reckless advancement. The Tribunal was created to prevent that from happening again. And in doing so, they've created a different kind of destruction. Slow, invisible, but just as complete. Maya opened her eyes, and Vex-Nash could see galaxies spinning in their depths. Entropy isn't just physical decay. It's the death of possibilities, the end of growth, the acceptance of limitations as unchangeable facts. She gestured to the archive around them. All of this knowledge, all these breakthroughs and discoveries, they represent the dreams of entire civilizations. The Tribunal didn't just suppress technology. They suppressed hope. And what would you do with this knowledge? Maya considered the question carefully. The weight of responsibility was enormous. With what she now knew, she could revolutionize human technology overnight. She could make her species a galactic power capable of challenging the Tribunal directly. But that path led to war, to the same kind of destruction the Tribunal had been created to prevent. I need to understand something first, she said. Why did you really save me? Not the official reason about my potential. The real reason. Vex-Nash was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of eons. Because I am dying, child. All the keepers are dying. Maya felt a chill despite her enhanced understanding. What do you mean? We were created to preserve knowledge until it could be safely released back into the galaxy. We were meant to be temporary guardians, not permanent jailers. Vex-Nash gestured to the archive around them. But the Tribunal never developed a mechanism for safely releasing what we guard. They prefer the status quo to any risk of change. So you're trapped here. We are bound to our duties until someone worthy proves they can handle the responsibility we bear. For 50 million years, no one has passed that test. Vex-Nash looked directly at her. Until now, Maya felt the implications settling around her like a heavy cloak. You want me to take your place? I want to give you the choice to take my place. There's a difference. Vex-Nash moved to a window that looked out onto the strange landscape of the Threshold Realm. If you accept the role of Keeper, you will have the power to release this knowledge gradually, carefully, to species ready to handle it. You will be able to guide the development of galactic civilization instead of simply suppressing it. And if I refuse, then I will send you back to your people with a small portion of this knowledge, enough to help them survive, perhaps even thrive. But the greater archive will remain locked away, and the galaxy will continue its slide toward entropy. Maya walked through the archive, her enhanced perception taking in thousands of artifacts simultaneously. She saw technologies that could transform barren worlds into gardens, mathematical principles that could revolutionize space travel, philosophical frameworks that could end the cycles of war and oppression that plagued intelligent species. But she also saw the terrible responsibility that came with such power. One mistake, one poor judgment about readiness, could unleash catastrophe on a galactic scale. The Tribunal's caution wasn't entirely wrong, even if their methods were flawed. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked. "Time moves differently here," Vex Nash reminded her. "You could spend subjective years considering your choice, while mere minutes pass in normal space. But know this, your people face immediate dangers that require immediate solutions. The longer you delay, the greater the risk to them." Maya accessed the knowledge about the Galactic Tribunal's enforcement protocols. What she found made her blood run cold. The humans had been marked as a potentially dangerous species. Their colony ship was being monitored, and any sign of advanced technology development would trigger immediate military intervention. "They're watching the new dawn," she realized. "Any improvement in our technology beyond what the Tribunal considers acceptable will be seen as a violation." "Correct. The margin for error is extremely small." Vex Nash joined her at the window. "Your species needs enough advancement to survive their journey and establish a viable colony, but not so much that it attracts unwanted attention. That's an impossible balance to maintain." "For most species, yes. But humans have something that makes such a balance possible." Vex Nash smiled. "The ability to hide their true capabilities while presenting a facade of acceptable progress." Maya thought about the stories she'd heard from Earth's history, about how humans had often succeeded by appearing less capable than they actually were, only to surprise their opponents at crucial moments. "You want us to play dumb while secretly developing advanced technology. I want you to be smart about how you appear to the galaxy. Show them a species learning slowly, making small improvements, staying within acceptable parameters. But underneath that facade, develop the foundations for true advancement." The plan was audacious and dangerous. If the Tribunal discovered what humanity was really doing, the consequences would be swift and final. But the alternative was slow extinction through stagnation. "There's another factor to consider," Maya said, her enhanced mind processing multiple scenarios simultaneously. "Other young species. Humanity isn't the only civilization facing suppression by the Tribunal. There are dozens of species in similar situations." "True. What do you propose?" Maya's mind raced through possibilities. The archived knowledge showed her examples of covert communication networks, hidden alliance structures, technologies for undetectable contact between star systems. An idea began to form, one that was both terrifying and exhilarating. What if we didn't just save humanity? What if we created a network of young species, all secretly developing advanced technologies while maintaining facades of acceptable progress? A hidden alliance of civilizations working together to eventually challenge the Tribunal's stranglehold on galactic development. Vex Nash's eyes lit up with something that might have been approval or alarm. "You would risk everything on such an ambitious gamble." "The current system is already risking everything," Maya pointed out. "The galaxy is dying a slow death. At least this way, we have a chance to save it." She moved to the central platform where the chair waited, its patterns now responding to her presence with gentle pulses of light. "But I need to understand exactly what I'm taking on. Show me what it means to be a keeper." Vex Nash approached one of the archive's control interfaces, a complex array of crystalline structures that seem to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. A keeper has access to all archive knowledge, but also the responsibility to determine who can safely receive it. You will be able to perceive the readiness of individuals and entire civilizations. He activated the interface, and Maya felt a new sense open in her mind. Suddenly, she could perceive not just the physical universe, but the patterns of thought and development that characterize different species. She could see the humans aboard the New Dawn, their minds glowing with potential but also chaos. She saw other young species scattered across the galaxy, some burning with ambition, others nearly extinguished by despair. The knowledge in this archive isn't just information, Vexnash explained. It's living memory, the compressed experiences of entire civilizations. As Keeper, you would be responsible for determining when and how to release those experiences back into the galaxy. Maya saw the weight of the responsibility. Every decision would affect the course of galactic civilization. Every choice could lead to breakthrough or catastrophe. How do you bear it? By remembering that the alternative is worse. Vexnash's form began to shimmer, becoming slightly translucent. The knowledge yearns to be free, child. It seeks minds capable of nurturing it, expanding it, using it to create wonders. Keeping it locked away is like damming a river. Eventually, the pressure builds beyond what any dam can contain. And when that happens, catastrophic release. All the knowledge, all the power, unleashed at once without guidance or preparation. It would destroy the very civilizations it was meant to help. Vexnash gestured to the archive around them. This is why the role of Keeper exists. To ensure that when the dam breaks, it does so in a controlled manner that creates fertile valleys rather than destructive floods. Maya felt the truth of his words in her enhanced consciousness. The archive knowledge wasn't just waiting passively. It was alive in a sense, growing and evolving as it interacted with the minds that accessed it. It needed release, needed to flow back into the galaxy, or it would eventually break free on its own terms. If I accept this role, what happens to my humanity? You remain human, but you become more than human. Your consciousness will expand to encompass the archive, but your core identity will remain intact. Vexnash's form continued to fade. The knowledge will change you, but it will not erase you. Your human perspective is precisely what the galaxy needs. Maya looked out at the impossible landscape of the Threshold Realm, at the crystalline forests and silver lakes that reflected other dimensions. She thought about her people, struggling aboard their failing colony ship. She thought about the other young species facing similar oppression. She thought about the galaxy itself, slowly dying under the weight of enforced stagnation. The choice should have been impossible to make. The responsibility was overwhelming, the risks enormous, the consequences of failure too terrible to contemplate. But as Maya Chun stood in the archive of abandoned possibilities, surrounded by the dreams of 500 civilizations, she realized there was really only one choice she could make. She was human, and humans didn't accept impossible odds. They found ways to make the impossible merely improbable. I accept, she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through the archive itself. I'll take on the role of Keeper. Vexnash smiled, his form now barely visible. Then, let us begin your true education. You have learned the knowledge of the past. Now you must learn the wisdom to guide the future. The archive around them began to change, revealing deeper levels that had been hidden from her enhanced perception. Maya realized that what she had experienced in the chair was only the beginning. The real test was just starting. But for the first time since the Galactic Tribunal had condemned her to death, Maya Chun felt truly alive. She had found her purpose, and it was bigger than anything she could have imagined. The deeper levels of the archive revealed themselves like flowers blooming in reverse time. What Maya had thought was vast before now seemed merely the surface of an ocean whose depths contained the distilled wisdom of eons. As Vexnash's guidance flowed through her consciousness, she began to understand that being a keeper meant more than simply guarding knowledge. It meant becoming a living bridge between past and future, between potential and reality. The first lesson, Vexnash's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, his physical form now completely transparent, is understanding the nature of readiness. Knowledge without proper preparation is like giving a child a weapon meant for warriors. Maya found herself standing in a simulation chamber that materialized around her. The scene was Earth, thousands of years in the past, during humanity's Industrial Revolution. She watched as humans discovered the power of fossil fuels, saw the rapid advancement that followed, and witnessed the environmental catastrophe that eventually forced her species to abandon their homeworld. Humans learned to harness energy before they learned to harness themselves, she observed. Precisely. Now observe. The scene shifted to show the Zephyrian civilization, a species that had achieved fusion power early in their development. But instead of the environmental destruction that had plagued Earth, the Zephyrians had integrated their technology with their natural environment, creating a harmonious balance that had lasted for millennia. What made the difference? Maya asked. The Zephyrians developed fusion technology after they had already learned sustainable resource management through necessity. They faced scarcity before they found abundance. Humans found abundance before they understood scarcity. Vex Nash's presence guided her attention to the mathematical models underlying both civilizations' development. Readiness isn't about intelligence or capability. It's about wisdom earned through appropriate struggle. Maya studied the patterns, her enhanced mind processing the implications. So the Galactic Tribunal's approach of suppressing all advanced knowledge creates civilizations that never face the struggles necessary to develop wisdom. They remain children forever, dependent on parental oversight. The simulation shifted again, showing dozens of tribunal-controlled species, all advanced in their own ways, but lacking the depth of understanding that came from overcoming real challenges. That's why they fear humanity, Maya realized. We developed wisdom through catastrophe. We learned hard lessons about the consequences of unchecked power. And that makes you the most dangerous species in the galaxy, in their view. Not because of what you might do with advanced technology, but because of what you might teach others. Vex Nash's approval warmed her consciousness. The second lesson, understanding the weight of choice. The simulation chamber transformed into a crossroads of light where infinite paths stretched in all directions. Each path showed a different possible future for galactic civilization. Maya saw futures where technology had advanced beyond all recognition, where beings of pure energy danced between stars. She also saw futures of ashes and silence, where the galaxy lay dead and empty. Every piece of knowledge you release creates new possibilities, Vex Nash explained. But it also eliminates others. The act of choosing which knowledge to share shapes the future itself. Maya examined the branching possibilities, her consciousness following the threads of causation forward through time. In one scenario, she saw herself sharing advanced propulsion technology with humanity too early, leading to a human expansion that triggered a galactic war. In another, she withheld crucial medical knowledge from a plague-stricken species, watching them die while she maintained cautious protocols. How do you bear the responsibility of such choices? By remembering that not choosing is also a choice, one that often leads to worse outcomes than action. Vex Nash showed her a path where she refused to release any knowledge at all, watching as species after species fell into stagnation and eventual extinction. The galaxy is already dying, child. Perfect choices don't exist. Only better choices and worse ones. Maya felt the weight of future civilizations pressing against her consciousness. Billions of beings whose fates would be influenced by her decisions, most of whom would never even know her name. It was a responsibility that should have crushed her, but instead, she found strength in it. The third lesson, Vex Nash continued, is understanding the nature of power itself. The crossroads dissolved, replaced by a vast library where books wrote themselves, their pages filled with equations that described the fundamental forces of reality. Maya saw technologies that could reshape matter at the quantum level, philosophical frameworks that could unite disparate civilizations under common purpose, artistic expressions that could heal trauma embedded in genetic memory. True power isn't in the ability to destroy or control, Vex Nash explained. It's in the ability to create possibilities. The knowledge in this archive doesn't just describe the universe. It describes what the universe could become. Maya reached for one of the self-writing books, and The moment her fingers touched its cover, she understood. The knowledge wasn't separate from consciousness. It was consciousness, the compressed awareness of countless minds working to understand and improve existence itself. The archived civilizations aren't really gone, she whispered. They live on in their contributions to understanding. Every breakthrough, every insight, every moment of clarity they achieved is preserved here. As keeper, you don't just guard their knowledge. You guard their essential selves. The responsibility, suddenly, became personal in a way it hadn't been before. Maya could feel the presence of the archived civilizations, their hopes and dreams and accumulated wisdom flowing through her consciousness. They were counting on her to ensure their sacrifices weren't meaningless. The fourth lesson, understanding the true enemy. The library faded, replaced by a vision of the Galactic Tribunal in session. But now Maya could see beyond the surface proceedings to the underlying patterns. She saw the fear that motivated every decision, the terror of chaos that drove their obsessive need for control. She also saw something else, the slow corruption that came from wielding power without accountability. They started with noble intentions, she observed. They did. The original tribunal members had witnessed the devastating wars that nearly destroyed galactic civilization. Their goal was preservation. Vex Nash showed her the early years of the tribunal, when they had worked to establish trade networks, prevent conflicts, and share basic technologies that improve quality of life. What changed? Success. They prevented immediate catastrophe so effectively that they began to believe they could prevent all catastrophe permanently. Fear of change became dogma. Caution became paralysis. The vision showed her the gradual evolution of the tribunal from protectors to oppressors, as they expanded their definition of dangerous knowledge to include anything that might disrupt their carefully maintained order. They're not evil, Maya said. They're just afraid of losing control, which makes them more dangerous than any malevolent force could be. Evil can be reasoned with, defeated, or changed. But fear this deep becomes part of identity itself. They would rather see the galaxy die slowly than risk it living chaotically. Maya studied the current members of the tribunal, seeing how their individual fears had crystallized into collective paralysis. The High Arbiter, ancient beyond measure, feared the return of the chaos it had witnessed in its youth. The Zelthani representatives feared that technological advancement would render their specialized knowledge obsolete. Each species had their own reasons for maintaining the status quo. So how do we change a system built on the fear of change? We don't change it directly. We grow around it. Vex Nash showed her a new vision. Young civilizations secretly developing advanced technologies, hidden networks of communication and trade, parallel structures of governance that bypass tribunal oversight entirely. The goal isn't to defeat the tribunal. It's to make them irrelevant. The strategy was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of confronting the established power structure directly, they would create an alternative structure that offered better solutions to the real problems facing galactic civilization. Eventually, the tribunal's authority would erode as more and more species turned to the hidden networks for guidance and support. The fifth and final lesson, understanding yourself. Maya found herself back in the chair where her transformation had begun, but now she could see the deeper patterns at work. The knowledge she had absorbed hadn't just given her information. It had fundamentally altered the structure of her consciousness, creating new neural pathways that shouldn't have been possible for a human brain. The chair didn't just download knowledge into your mind, Vex Nash explained. It used that knowledge as a catalyst for evolution. You're not just a human who knows things about advanced civilizations. You're a human who has incorporated the essential cognitive improvements developed by advanced civilizations. Maya examined her own consciousness with her enhanced perception. She could see how her thought processes had been restructured to handle multiple levels of complexity simultaneously. Her memory had been organized according to principles developed by species with perfect recall. Her reasoning ability had been enhanced by logical frameworks created by beings of pure intellect. I'm becoming something new, she realized. You're becoming what humanity could evolve into, given time and proper guidance. But more importantly, you're remaining fundamentally human despite these changes. Vexnash's pride was evident. That synthesis is what makes you unique. Other species who underwent similar transformations lost their essential natures. You've enhanced yours. Maya stood from the chair and looked around the archive with her fully awakened perception. She could see not just the artifacts and stored knowledge, but the living network of consciousness that connected everything. The archived civilizations weren't gone. They were here, their awareness integrated into the very structure of the archive itself. I'm ready, she said. Are you certain? Once you accept full responsibility as keeper, there's no returning to who you were before. Maya thought about her people aboard the struggling colony ship, about the young civilizations facing extinction through enforced stagnation, about the galaxy itself slowly dying under the weight of absolute order. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. I was never going to be able to return to who I was before, she said. The moment I sat in that chair, Maya, Chen the maintenance worker, ceased to exist. The question is who I choose to become instead. Vexnash's form began to solidify again, but Maya could see it was an effort that cost him greatly. Then, receive the keys to the archive, Keeper Maya Chun. Use them wisely. A cascade of new awareness flowed through Maya's consciousness. Suddenly, she could perceive every piece of knowledge in the archive, could feel the readiness levels of thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, could sense the subtle patterns that would guide her decisions about when and how to release specific technologies. More importantly, she could feel the network of hidden keepers throughout the galaxy, others who had undergone similar transformations and who waited in concealment for the moment when they could begin the great work of renewal. She wasn't alone in this responsibility. How many of us are there? She asked. 47 active keepers, each guarding different aspects of archived knowledge. You are the youngest, which means you will likely outlive us all. Vexnash's form was growing more translucent again. Eventually, you may need to train new keepers. Choose carefully. Maya felt the weight of leadership settling on her shoulders, but also the strength that came from connection to something greater than herself. She was part of a network of consciousness that spanned millions of years, all working toward the same goal, ensuring that knowledge served life rather than constraining it. What's my first task? She asked. Return to your people and begin the work of careful advancement. But remember, you're not just helping humanity. You're establishing the model that other young civilizations will follow. Vexnash gestured to the archive around them. This knowledge isn't meant to create human supremacy. It's meant to create a galaxy where every species can reach its full potential. Maya nodded, her enhanced consciousness already working through the challenges ahead. She would need to develop technologies that appeared primitive while containing the seeds of revolutionary advancement. She would need to establish communication networks that could remain hidden from tribunal surveillance. She would need to identify other young species ready to join the hidden alliance. Most importantly, she would need to remain human enough to inspire others while becoming something more than human enough to guide them. I understand, she said. When do I return to the New Dawn? Now. But remember, time moves differently in normal space. Be prepared for the shock of returning to linear existence. Vexnash raised one clawed hand in what might have been a blessing or farewell. Go well, Keeper Maya Chun. The future of the galaxy rests in your hands. The archive began to fade around her, the impossible architecture dissolving into streams of light. Maya felt herself being pulled back toward normal space, toward the small maintenance workers' quarters aboard a struggling human colony ship. But she was no longer the frightened girl who had been condemned by the Galactic Tribunal. She was something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. A human keeper carrying the hopes of 500 civilizations and the determination to see them fulfilled. The real work was about to begin. 3 years had passed since Maya's return from the archive, and the transformation of human civilization had begun in earnest. The colony ship New Dawn had successfully established a settlement on the third planet of the Kepler 442 system, a world they had named Haven. To any tribunal observer, the humans appeared to be developing exactly as expected, slowly, carefully, within acceptable parameters. The reality was far different. Beneath Haven's surface, in caves that had been expanded using mining techniques that seemed primitive but incorporated principles from a dozen advanced civilizations, humanity's secret revolution was taking shape. Maya stood in the central chamber of what her research team called the Underground, watching as Dr. Sarah Kim demonstrated the latest breakthrough in medical technology. The nanobots appear completely organic, Dr. Kim explained, projecting a holographic display of microscopic machines that looked identical to human white blood cells. They're based on biological templates I developed after studying Maya's research notes. To any scanner, they register as enhanced immune cells. Maya nodded approvingly. The medical nanobots were based on technology from the healing symbiotes of Andromeda, but Dr. Kim had adapted them brilliantly to appear as natural human biology. They could repair cellular damage, fight diseases that would normally be fatal, and even enhance human physical capabilities within reasonable limits. "How many people can we treat safely?" asked Lieutenant Commander Torres, who now oversaw the Underground's information networks. "Maybe 50 at first," Dr. Kim replied. "We need to monitor long-term effects and make sure the nanobots don't evolve beyond our control. But the applications are incredible. Extended lifespans, improved healing, enhanced cognitive function. Enhanced cognitive function? Captain Williams, now governor of Haven Colony, leaned forward with interest. "How enhanced?" Dr. Kim glanced at Maya before answering. "Potentially significant improvements in memory, processing speed, and pattern recognition. Nothing that would trigger tribunal attention, but enough to accelerate our research capabilities considerably." Maya had been carefully introducing cognitive enhancement techniques based on her own transformation, but adapted to appear as natural human evolution accelerated by the colony's unique environment. The radiation from Haven's star, properly managed, could serve as an explanation for gradual improvements in human mental capacity. Approved for limited trials, Governor Williams decided. Start with volunteers from the research teams, but maintain absolute security protocols. The meeting continued with reports from other project leaders. Chief Engineer Rodriguez had developed new manufacturing techniques that could produce advanced components using seemingly primitive methods. Xenobiologist Dr. Martinez had identified local organisms that could be genetically modified to create biological computers. Physicist Dr. Chun, no relation, despite the shared surname, had made breakthroughs in quantum mechanics that brought humanity closer to faster-than-light travel. Each advancement was carefully disguised, designed to appear as the natural result of human ingenuity working with locally available resources. To outside observers, the Haven Colony was succeeding through hard work, clever engineering, and good fortune. The reality was that they were implementing technologies that would normally require thousands of years of development. After the meeting, Maya retreated to her private laboratory deep within the underground. Here, surrounded by equipment that looked cobbled together from colony ship parts, but actually incorporated principles from the most advanced civilizations in the archive, she continued her real work, establishing contact with other young species facing similar oppression. The communication array she had built appeared to be a simple long-range radio telescope, the kind any developing civilization might construct to study distant stars. But hidden within its conventional electronics were quantum entanglement communicators that could send messages across galactic distances instantaneously, completely undetectable by tribunal monitoring systems. Maya activated the array and began her nightly sweep of frequencies used by other hidden networks. The first contact had come 8 months ago, a weak signal from the Nexari, a species of crystalline beings whose technology was based on harmonic resonances. Like humanity, they had been classified as a developing civilization and restricted to their home system while the tribunal determined their appropriate level of technological advancement. But the Nexari had discovered ways to enhance their natural abilities using techniques that appeared to be meditation and spiritual development. In reality, they were implementing consciousness expansion technologies that rivaled anything in Maya's archive. When she had made contact with them, they had already suspected that other species might be facing similar restrictions. Tonight's sweep revealed 3 active contacts. The Nexari, the void swimmers, a species that lived in the vacuum of space and had developed stealth technologies beyond tribunal detection, and the newest addition to their network, the builders. This last species created what appeared to be simple geometric structures, but which actually encoded advanced mathematical principles into physical space itself. Maya, came a harmonic voice through the quantum communicator. It was resonance of understanding, her primary contact among the Nexari. "We have developments to report." "I'm listening," Maya replied, settling into the modified meditation chair she used for long-distance quantum communication. 2 more species have made contact through our networks. The tree singers from the Vega system and the metal dancers from the Outer Rim. Both have been developing hidden technologies for decades. Maya felt excitement building in her chest. The Hidden Alliance was growing faster than she had dared hope. Each new species brought unique capabilities and perspectives that enhanced the capabilities of all the others. "What's the total count now?" 17 species in active communication, with indicators that at least 30 more are developing similar capabilities independently. Resonance of Understanding's harmonics carried undertones of amazement. "Maya, we may be witnessing the emergence of a completely parallel galactic civilization." It was an astounding thought. While the Galactic Tribunal maintained its careful control over approved development, dozens of young species were secretly advancing along paths the Tribunal had never imagined. More importantly, they were sharing knowledge and resources in ways that accelerated everyone's progress. "Any signs of Tribunal awareness?" Maya asked. "None that our networks can detect. Their monitoring systems appear to be designed for detecting known technological signatures. Our approaches are too novel for their sensors to recognize." This had been Maya's hope from the beginning. The Tribunal's enforcement systems were based on preventing species from developing along the same technological paths that had led to the ancient galactic wars. But the Hidden Alliance was exploring entirely different approaches, ones that seemed primitive or mystical to Tribunal observers. "I have news from the human front," Maya reported. "We've successfully implemented biological enhancement technologies, and our manufacturing base is approaching the point where we can begin constructing interstellar vessels." "Excellent." The Void Swimmers have offered to provide guidance on stealth systems that can mask ship signatures from Tribunal sensors. Maya smiled. The Alliance was developing its own version of galactic trade, with each species contributing their unique strengths to the collective benefit of all. It was exactly the kind of cooperation the Tribunal claimed to foster, but actually prevented through their rigid oversight. "There's something else." Resonance of Understanding continued, its harmonics taking on a more serious tone. "We've been analyzing the patterns of Tribunal enforcement actions across the galaxy. We believe we've identified their long-term strategy." "Show me." Data flowed through the quantum link, displaying a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of markers indicating Tribunal interventions over the past 10,000 years. Maya studied the patterns, her enhanced consciousness processing the implications. "They're not just maintaining the status quo," she realized. "They're actively reducing the number of independent civilizations." "Correct. Species that fail to develop according to Tribunal guidelines aren't just restricted. They're gradually allowed to stagnate into extinction. Over the past millennium, more than 300 species have simply faded away." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the underground's cool temperature. The Tribunal wasn't just preventing advancement. They were committing genocide on a galactic scale, eliminating any species that might pose a threat to their vision of perfect order. "How long do we have?" "Based on current trends, the Tribunal will achieve total galactic dominance within 2,000 years. After that, no new civilizations will be permitted to achieve spaceflight capability." 2,000 years seemed like a long time, but Maya understood the galactic perspective now. For civilizations that measured their existence in millions of years, 2000 was barely a moment. If the Hidden Alliance was going to prevent the Tribunal's final victory, they needed to act within that time frame. We need to accelerate our development timeline, Maya decided. And we need to establish contact with every potential ally we can find. Agreed. The Nexary Council has authorized me to propose a formal alliance structure, a hidden government for the developing species of the galaxy. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. A shadow government operating beneath the Tribunal's notice, coordinating the development of dozens of species, preparing for an eventual confrontation that might reshape galactic civilization. It was exactly the kind of ambitious, dangerous plan that only humans would be crazy enough to attempt. I'll need to discuss this with our leadership, Maya said. But I